Hello, good morning, everyone. We're going to start in a minute. Take your places. I'm not sure there are going to be enough chairs for everyone. Make sure you get yours. Okay. Good morning. My name is Daniel. I'm the founder and director of Capital Cell. And we're a company specializing in investing in biotech, which is something that is more and more present in here. First, thanks CaixaBank for hosting us today. I'm not going to be particularly brief. I'm going to first start with explaining a little bit what's going on with biotech. Why is biotech featured in the Mobile World Congress, and why is it more and more present every year? And then we're going to have three extremely interesting companies that are actually fundraising right now. So, the biotech revolution, what is that? First of all, a little bit about ourselves. I know we don't look much, but Capital Cell, which is an investment crowdfunding platform, is actually the largest private investor in biotech in Spain, which is one of the most important markets in Europe. So we believe that through investment crowdfunding, Capital Cell has found a formula that works for getting money for startups. I'm going to skip all of that and jump straight to that. So the biotech revolution, what's going on and what's behind all of this effervescence in biotech innovation today? Well, this, basically a change in medicine. Medicine is a very old technology. As you may have noticed when you walk into a doctor's office, most of the technologies they use to diagnose or to cure you are 100 years old. You still get your thermometer, your stethoscope, your plaster cast. All of that is extremely old. Medicine for a long time hasn't changed a lot, but society is changing. And as usual, this is driving a few changes. So all of that is something you're familiar with. We live longer every year, and that has changed radically. The life expectancy in Spain, for example, has increased by 30 years in the last 50. So we live really, really a long time, and there is a high prevalence of chronic diseases. Obviously, that's because our society is changing. There's more diabetes and more obesity because, well, we eat crap. But there's also more diabetes because diabetes used to kill people. Now it doesn't, but you live the rest of your life with it. So the burden of medicine for chronic diseases is increasing a lot. The universal healthcare is at risk of collapsing, at least in the parts of the world where we have universal healthcare. And at the same time, new technologies are appearing. So that is a graphic depiction of what I'm saying. What you see in blue is the life expectancy. That's for the US, but essentially it's the same everywhere in the first world. What you see in yellow is the average retirement age. So a lot of what we do, pensions, healthcare, etc., worked because people basically work themselves to death. But today, an American has a 50% chance of surviving his retirement age by 30 years or more. So that is a big, big change. So that means that the paradigm of healthcare has changed, and it has switched from what it used to be. So basically, medicine used to be chemistry. Chemicals, pharma, and hospitals where they cut you up and fix you. Generalized pharmacological treatments mean that if you walk into a doctor's office, you have a fairly high chance of walking out with either cortisone or paracetamol. And why? Because healthcare is basically aimed at curing the sick. There is a nice little experiment that I did when I turned 40. I'm more than 40, surprisingly. I am. Which is, I went to the doctor, to the public healthcare doctor, and said, "Look, I'm 40. I'm pretty sure there's a few things that we should, take care of in advance so that don't get worse. I want to live a healthy life." Obviously, the doctor looked at me like I had hit my head with a hammer. Like, what are you dying of? I went, "Nothing. I just, want to prevent my health problems from getting worse." So I didn't get anything from them. And that's because, well, that's why they're here. They want to extend longevity, live more years, and avoid people from dying. That's essentially it. When you're doing that, you have essentially, or we've had always the pharmas as the innovator. Who gets new drugs to the market? Pharma companies. Who gets new diagnostic devices to the market? Pharma companies. And I don't want to be mean, especially if there's people from pharma in the audience, but if you're making a lot of money and you don't really have an alternative, the push to do serious R&D is not big. Let's leave it at that. But there is a new paradigm. With all of that, with life-changing, people living more years, etc., you have that. We need to have a healthcare system that is sustainable. We can't just be curing people and extending their life, particularly if it's not making them healthy. Personalized medicine, preventive medicine, all of that is increasing because the new target, and you're going to hear that already from health ministers in the European Union, is not curing the sick. It's preventing disease from appearing. It's avoiding the burden of maintaining chronic patients. It's curing someone's cancer when you can cure it with diet before you need to give him a $300,000 per year chemotherapy. That's basically what it is. What has that implied? Because we're an investment company, so what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is that all of that implies a new system of innovation. Look at that. This is a bit confusing. This is the amount of money that is made from new drugs that comes from outside the pharmas. In 15 years, it doubled. So the pharmas took a 15% hit to their baseline, to the money they're making, because innovation was made elsewhere. And where? Well, look at that. 60% of the drugs approved by FDA now come from small companies. In that study, the definition of a small company is a pharma company with sales below 100 million. So it's not necessarily a startup, but almost. Because in a lot of cases it is. 60% of new drugs do not come from pharma. They come from outside of pharma. And that's because pharmas realized a long time ago, that was reposted by the CEO of Novartis a couple of years ago, a bit more actually. The return of investment for pharmas when they invest in R&D has gone negative or has dropped to zero, which means you invest €1 in R&D and you make €1, which really doesn't seem very effective. And that's another really striking study. That's from a while back, it hasn't substantially changed. That's a bang per buck analysis, meaning how much of an effect do you have per dollar invested. Per dollar invested, startups take to the market 6 times more products. They're 6 times more innovative, 6 times more efficient, call it what you will. But for every $1 million you give a startup, they take 6 times more products to the market. Obviously, the equation here is solved really quickly. You have people who are now making less money, pushed for innovation, and who are not good at doing innovation. And small companies that are really good at doing innovation and that are eager to be sold and make money. Since the pharmas have, nothing but money, what's happened? They're buying startups. So it's not really, magic. It's happening in the digital world. And it's now happening in pharma. It's that simple. Small biotech startups are now the main source of innovation for pharmas. Well, not the main source, but a really important source of new products for pharmas. I don't think I need to go into how big the pharma sector is, as you know, it is big. What's behind this? Well, simply put, the technology has advanced so much, and I'm going to really sum it up so I can give the floor to actual innovators. What's happened is this technology has made the exact same leap it made with digital. It has become small, it has become affordable, and it has allowed small teams of people with not a lot of resources to achieve innovation that used to be impossible. And that's an example, a very simple one. 2001, does anyone remember Project Human Genome? You could actually plug your computer to the internet to give them computing power, it took humanity to come together and, well, sequence the first genome. And back then, sequencing one genome cost about $100 million. I don't know how many of you have done it, but today you can put a bit of spit in an envelope and send it to a company that will sequence it for $70. What does that mean? It means that, for example, anyone who wants to develop a drug that is based on understanding the genome, which is anyone who wants to develop a drug understanding the plans of how life works, used to be a huge research center with massive resources. Now it can be, one of you with $1 million. And that is what is really disrupting the industry. Nothing too different from what happened with the revolution that you know only too well. Actually, Mobile World Congress exists because at some point our telephones have the computing power of, a supercomputer of the 80s. And that happened essentially because of that. The cost of magnetic memory dropped by, a lot. That created the digital revolution. This is creating the biotech revolution. I think my point is made. So that's what a technology looks like when it changes, it's divided by 100,000 in 15 years. It gets really cheap. It completely shifts the priorities of the industry. And what's happened with the money? Obviously, if you know rich people, they're not stupid at all. So the money has followed. And the VC money, particularly venture capital money, is heavily invested in biotech and healthcare. Depending on whose figures you look at and how you define it, it's the second, third, fourth sector in the world with more VC investment. It's taken a bit of a hit like the rest of venture capital, sadly. But it still remains, if you superpose this to the general VC investment in the world, it looks the same. It still remains one of the sectors with more VC investment in the world. And these guys are making a lot of money, actually. This is a comparison, just to put the example, of how much money you get from selling an IT startup in average, and how much money you get from selling a biotech startup in average. 1.6 times more. So whenever you think of the sale of Twitter, LinkedIn, Glovo, or whatever, biotech startups are selling for more. Okay, and sorry, this is repeated. So, I'm done. Just saying, why is the biotech revolution not really that famous? Well, because of that. It's early days, quite simply. This guy here, Ken Olsen, bless him, he was the president of the second, largest computer manufacturer in the world, who in 1977 said famously, and he admitted it was true, there is no reason for any American, he said American, for any American to have a computer in his house. The same year, this guy here, some Finnish guy, was the first investor in Apple. And he made his money times 2,200 in 3 years. Why was the president of the largest computer manufacturer in the world utterly clueless to the fact that this was happening? Well, because when revolutions are happening, they're not particularly evident. They're really evident when you look back at them. But when you're in them, you have to be really smart and be in the audience of the right talk here at 4 years from now. So that's it. The floor now is for you guys. Marcus. So thanks a lot. And Marcus Wilhelms, CEO of Mowoot, pleasure having you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Marcus Wilhelms. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mowoot, and the next 10 minutes will be dedicated to the future of bowel management. Does everybody hear me as weird as I do? Yes, is this better? All right. Okay, so what is bowel management? Let's begin with this interesting fact. 1 out of 4 people actually suffers from some kind of bowel dysfunction. 1 out of 4 also here at the Mobile World Congress. That's a lot of people already. It's a quarter of the general population, and for Europe and the United States, that adds up to over 250 million people that are actually generating an annual cost of 300 billion euros to the healthcare systems. Now, there are different types or subtypes of bowel dysfunction, and the big groups are the neurogenic bowel disorder, opioid-induced constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, or chronic idiopathic constipation. But from the patient point of view, it all comes down to the same: low quality of life due to the severe side effects like abdominal pain and bloating, difficult defecation, fecal impaction, and fecal incontinence. There's actually a study that shows that the impact on the quality of life of bowel dysfunction is bigger than that of other chronic conditions like, for example, asthma or diabetes. That's interesting, right? Well, the root cause to all this is always the same. It's missing or faulty movement patterns of the large intestine. So to put it simple, if you're constipated, your gut is not moving enough. If you have diarrhea, it's moving too much. And if you have irritable bowel syndrome, actually it's all over the place. The current treatment approaches, the so-called bowel management, is heavily relying on pharmacological and invasive solutions. And they don't address this root cause. They only manage symptoms. It's actually a step-by-step approach, and of course you should start to fix your diet and lifestyle before you step up to pharmacological solutions like laxatives and constipation drugs. If that doesn't work, the next step is adding in transanal irrigation. That's large daily enemas of up to 3 liters of volume. And if that fails, everything else requires surgery. For example, a stoma, which is an artificial opening in your gut, and then you carry around a plastic bag with you all day where you collect your feces. What steps 2 to 4 of this so-called bowel management have in common are several side effects, low efficacy, and high costs for the chronic patient. So no wonder that even after 5 years of intensive treatment, 50% of patients still remain symptomatic. And I repeat, that is because the conventional solutions only offer workarounds. They don't address the root cause, they're managing symptoms, and that results in dependency, low adherence, low quality of life. And Mowoot, our company, is changing this with the first purely physiological, non-drug and non-invasive solution to bowel dysfunction that is actually addressing the root cause of the faulty bowel movements. You can see here a patient sitting with one of our devices. Mowoot is actually a non-invasive physical pacemaker, a neurostimulator that you can use in the privacy of your home, and you only need 20 minutes of daily use. The device consists of a desktop that controls and generates the treatment, and this treatment is individualized with digital real-time pressure sensors to each patient. It is then administered via a lightweight belt that has no electronics or mechanical components at all. We are working with compressed air, meaning we have pneumatic soft robotic elements inside this belt. And these elements are inflating sequentially alongside the large intestine to emulate the natural, healthy colonic movement patterns. And the effect is twofold. One, we have the directly physical movement pushing of the feces that results in evacuation. And two, we are stimulating and training the gut-brain axis by directly interacting with the mechanosensory cells of the large intestine. That's the production sites of the famous neurotransmitter serotonin, and that's the main player in gut motility and other disorders. Of course, we have several granted patents that cover our technology, including these important forces and patterns, and we have a backlog of patents that also cover broader applications of our technology that are in line with our growing product portfolio and also our ongoing R&D. And as an example for ongoing R&D, we have currently a project in collaboration with Ericat and Idiap Jordigo, a 2.5 million project to develop a cloud-based digital platform that is actually using objectively measured outcomes with the sensors of our device, combining these with patient-reported outcomes like symptoms of bowel dysfunction, like the defecation, time, consistency, etc., to furthermore individualize the treatment, monitor them in real time and by distance by the medical doctors, and also to predict important events. For example, when is the most probable moment for the next defecation? A huge added value for people that are suffering from fecal incontinence. So now that you know what we do and how we do it, the biggest question to get out of the way is basically, does this work? Where we have 13 published clinical trials and long-term studies that show a really high positive clinical responder rate of 72 to 90% and an equally impressive adherence to treatment of 86 to 90% beyond 12 months of use. That means our technology improves stool consistency, defecation frequency, overall constipation symptoms and quality of life by reducing all these side effects we talked about, the bloating, the pain, the cramps. Comparing that to our competitors, it is clear why Mowoot is making such a big impact in the healthcare industry. To sum it up, Mowoot is more effective, cheaper and safer than everything that is currently on the market. So at this stage, it might not surprise you that our solution is already recommended in several European guidelines. The product is already in the market for several years, and now for me the interesting part is explaining you a bit our go-to-market strategy, right? So you have seen where we want to be here at the low part of the pyramid, but we're actually starting up there as a direct competitor to transanal irrigation, these big enemas that you have to do daily. And the reason is that transanal irrigation has a 54% dropout rate within the first year, right? Just these patients whose next logical step would be a surgery, if they can use our device, the market opportunity here is 300 million euros per year. And there's more data. 2/3 of all patients who get offered to use transanal irrigation devices actually never start. And that is because on one hand, transanal irrigation requires specialized training by nurses, and there's a shortage of these nurses. And on the other hand, it's just not really pleasant, and many people say, that's not for me. Taking these people into account, the market opportunity grows to 1.2 billion euros per year. Now, we made sure that for this positioning, we have an impactful value proposition that is quantifiable for all the important stakeholders. I think the patient is clear. It's 20 minutes of sitting on the sofa against 1 hour in direct contact with the feces, something up your behind. Now, for the payers, it's also pretty straightforward. With a price of annual cost of 1,300 euros versus the 2,000 of transanal irrigation, we save directly 30% in hardware costs, not even taking into account the savings on the nurses and other things that are required for transanal irrigation. We're currently working with distribution partners that also sell transanal irrigation devices. So they have the perfect contact to our target market, and they have this big problem, the high dropout rate. So they spent a lot of money on call centers to trying to keep people on transanal irrigation, and 54% drop out within the first year. Now look at our numbers again, and it's obvious that the distributors are really happy that they have something else to offer, right? And last but not least, the environment. The business model of transanal irrigation is based on plastic tips, one use, in contact with the feces that need to be thrown away at home, right? This is a linear model based on plastic waste, right? What we do, our belt, has a longer lifetime, of course. It's not for only one use, and after its lifetime it can be recovered, and we are in complete control of the recycling process of the raw materials. That means zero waste on the patient side, right? And this also becomes important in the future for the payers, because in many Nordic countries you can get reimbursement for devices that are not carbon footprint zero. All right, just summing up where we stand right now, we have sales in 4 of the big European markets with distribution partners. In Germany, which is our main revenue driver, most of our sales are already reimbursed by private and public healthcare. We are also reimbursed in the UK by private healthcare and currently working on the public healthcare. So as a next logical step, once we have established us as a competitor to transanal irrigation, we will then gradually walk down this pyramid, and every time we step down, the market potential growth. In direct comparison to laxatives, the market potential for our device is 12.6 billion euros per year. And of course, there's this huge future potential for the direct interaction with the gut-brain axis, the effect of the microbiome, and the potential to target also neurodegenerative diseases, for example, Parkinson, which famously originates in the gut. Okay, just briefly to the team, the people that really make this happen. Our founder team is multidisciplinary. There's 2 PhDs from the life sciences, Immaculada and myself, and 2 engineers, Mark and Angel. And we're all specially trained in innovation methodologies in healthcare with the Stanford Biodesign Method. The team has been grown in the past 3 years to complement the founder skills, and we expect even more growth this year. And of course, we work with an international network and advisory board of serial medtech entrepreneurs, healthcare specialists, and medical key opinion leaders. Now, the next big steps for Mowoot will be, one, the launch of an improved version of our product. So we will adapt the business model and the pricing to further enhance the health economic outcomes that are important for the payers. On the other hand, we expect to reach the public healthcare reimbursement in the UK in early 2025. To do so, we have already initiated a randomized controlled trial with healthcare outcomes, with health economic outcomes in the UK. And we are also doing an NHS pilot to show within the system that Mowoot really fits the prescription approach of the NHS. Right? And last but not least, the launch of the digital platform that I already said is expected in 2026. So far we have raised 6.2 million euros. That's not much money compared to our pharma colleagues over here, but we really took this investment and turned it into value. I hope you have seen that. And upcoming in the next couple of weeks, the date is not quite clear, but there will be another investment opportunity on Capital Cell, a small bridge funding round that we will use to further support the UK go-to-market, and also the launch of the new product by the end of the year. So this will be the last opportunity for small and medium-sized investors to invest in our company before we then raise a big Series A in 2025. So stay tuned for more information and don't miss this opportunity to really make an impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks a lot. I don't think we're going to have time for questions, but these guys are going to stick around. So Ramon Garcia, CEO of Pharmamel, thanks a lot for being here. All yours.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you, Capital Cell and CaixaBank, for giving me the opportunity to talk about Pharmamel and to talk about our revolutionary medical technology to cure sepsis. Sepsis is one of the most important pathology around the world. Pharmamel is the biotechnological company born in Granada University in 2014. We have the research about inflammatory disease and about melatonin and how to use the melatonin to different type of inflammatory disease. We have the transferring of this research to Pharmamel, and our mission is develop new drugs with melatonin to cure sepsis. Sepsis is one of the most important pathology in the world. Why? Because right now we don't have any type of specific treatment to cure sepsis. And according the world data, we have around 50 million of cases of sepsis, and this 50 million of cases of sepsis produce 11 million of death. Why? Because right now only we have a protocol, only we have different type of drug to try to cure sepsis. But right now the humanity no have any type of specific treatment to this type of disease. Sepsis is an exaggerated inflammation process that become after virus or bacteria infection. This inflammation process can because the virus of the bacteria produce an inflammation process, and right now, remember my word, we don't have any type of specific treatment. Melatonin, it's a very good drug, very good molecule to stop the sepsis because melatonin go to the roots of the inflammation and stop the process. Right now, in Pharmamel, we have the solution for this important disease. We developed the first melatonin, injectable of melatonin for sepsis. And we proved this new drug into clinical trial phase 2. This is we test this new drug into clinical trial, okay, phase 2, in sepsis, after abdominal, after surgery, and other in COVID-19. Later we talk about COVID-19. But after this clinical trial in phase 2, we have an incredible result. We decrease the mortality, we decrease the hospitalization stay, and we decrease all the inflammatory parameters. And the most important thing, we don't have any type of secondary effect. For this reason, this new drug is very good for sepsis, and it's very good in terms of security things. Later, during COVID epoca, you remember this epoca, of course, no? During this epoca, the public administration called us and say, hey, your new drug, it's possible saving a lot of life, because the patient that have COVID at the end develop a several sepsis. For this reason, we develop this new clinical trial in phase 2 in La Paz Hospital in the ECU system, and we have more or less the same result. We decrease the hospitalization stay, we decrease the mortality, and we decrease all the inflammatory parameters in the patient. After these two clinical trials, phase 2, we have the several proof to continue the process. If we talk about the market, it's very easy to understand. If we have new drug that is possible decrease the hospitalization stay and of course decrease the mortality around the sepsis, this new drug is possible saving a lot of money in terms of treatment, hospitalization stay, and of course life. For this reason, after have these two important goals, clinical trial in phase 2 sepsis and clinical trial phase 2 in COVID, we have the global patent of this new injectable. After this important goal, we make an important agreement with Veristat. Veristat is an international CRO, and we develop together the new regulatory plan and the new protocol to develop the last stage in this process. This last stage, of course, is develop the clinical trial phase 3 to obtain the market access, the market approval according to FDA. For this reason, we have now the protocol, we have now the regulatory plan, we have now everything to develop the last stage of this process. We need 7 million euros, and the most important thing, the period to develop this last stage, it's only 10 months, around 20 months. Why? Because if we make a comparison between sepsis and other disease, sepsis is very good to develop this clinical trial, because in every single corner of different hospital, we're going to have a lot of sepsis patients. For this reason, the clinical trial, the time of this clinical trial is very short if we make the comparison with other clinical trial. And it's very cheap. It's only 7 million of euros. It's according to the industry, it's nothing. Right now, we have the plan, the clinical plan, we have the strategy plan, we have the regulatory plan, and we have the corporate plan. This 2023, we developed here in Capital Cell a fundraising campaign. And this fundraising campaign for us, for Pharmamel, is a real goal. Why? Because different type of external institution, like for example, BioExpert Network, Elion, and Alira Healthcare, prove and we receive the approve of our project about technology and everything. For this reason, after this campaign in Capital Cell is an important goal for us, because more than 450 investors come to the company. We receive the approve, and we receive the approve of this important institution. After, of course, the money is a several important point. We receive more than 1,600,000. And right now, our next plan is transform the company in a public company and go to a stock market. Why? Because we need think, and we need to have a clear, in the same way like in the clinical mindset, or in the same sign that in the clinical part, we need to develop the clinical trial. In terms of corporate thing, we need to think about this. Go to the public market and go to the stock market is not an objective, it's a tools, it's an instrument. Why? Because Pharmamel, our idea is transform in a public company and go to stock market, because we're going to receive visibility, brand reputation, and we're going to be more professional. Transparency and more professional thing around the company. At the end, more security for investor, more security for everything. For this reason, our next step is develop a new fundraising campaign here in Capital Cell. This fundraising campaign is a pre-IPO campaign. Our objective is make 5 million euros, transform in a public company. Right now we work in this world, develop the clinical trial phase 3 in the third quarter of 2024. For the reason we work right now with Veristar plus FDA to develop this clinical trial according to the legislation, and of course go to the market. For this reason, we work together with Armanex, is our listing sponsor. We work together to transform the company in public company and go to the public market, to the stock market at the end of 2024. Right now, we have all the important person around the company to develop this project, and of course, the last guy that come to the company is Mr. Jordi Roma. Mr. Jordi Roma is the ex-medical director of Almiral, have a very good background in terms of clinical trial, and will receive this support to finish the last stage of the company. In terms of support and partner, we have University of Granada, the Public Health System of Andalusia, and all of this. And in terms of scientific support, we have two important support. Mr. Daniel Cardinali and Mr. Raser Reiter is one of the most important guys that make important research around the melatonin. Thank you very much. I'm here. If you want to talk about the next step of Pharmamel, and if you want to talk about the transformation in a public company and go to the stock market, I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Ramon. And for our final presentation today, hope you're enjoying this, I have Pavel Soluk, CEO of Spinally. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm sure that you can recall the time when you went through intense physical pain. As 1 in 5 people around the world, we are struggling with this consistent pain, with this very bad condition which demolished our life. My name is Pavel Soluk. I'm the CEO of Spinally, and our mission is to revolutionize pain treatment and give back patients to their lives. For many of us, pain is disruptive, but just only very brief experience. But for about 80 million people in the US and Europe alone, this pain can persist for months or even years. One of my favorite artists, Frida Kahlo, illustrated through her life and art how this burden affects every aspect of human life, impacting not only the body, but the world around us, the essence of who you are. Pain, back pain or generally pain, is the main reason why people taking opioids. In 2008, every second minute, someone in the US was about to die due to fentanyl or morphine overdose. Every 25 minutes, a child with neonatal abstinence syndrome was born. So this problem is very huge there, and it's becoming also a problem here as opioids are more and more popular here in Europe. You may know that we must act now, as current solutions simply don't suffice. Opioids are lethal, and spinal cord stimulation, while it's not addictive, can bring a lot of good results, but it's limited in their epidural implantation. Before I will go to the money, I would like to tell you about the theory. So in 1965, Melzek and Wall presented their gate control theory of pain. Implants are electrodes are implanted in the spinal cord and transmit energy from generator. And by this, they mask pain signals that are coming from the body to the brain. When the stimulation is on, the gate to the brain is closed, and then people can't feel the pain by their brains. However, all current solutions are implanted epidurally in this space. What does mean that between the electrode and the spinal cord is very, very significant tissue barrier. So stimulation is not effective, it's not fully effective, and there is no possibility of good recording of the neuronal signals from the spinal cord, which is crucial for personalized therapy. We are the first around the world who are addressing this problem using intrathecal space, and this is very, very important. Why? Because we are placing our electrode right on the spinal cord, so there is no tissue in between. We can also take advantage of the cerebral spinal fluid, which is in this space, and which is very good material to propagate our current to the spinal cord. With our technology, we are able to reach 100% energy delivery to the spinal cord. Our personalized closed-loop therapy, while being highly effective and highly focused, is much more significant than current solutions. Research states that going deeper to the spinal cord, which is possible with our technology, will open doors for new forms of the therapy. What more, our technology needs just only battery recharging once every 3 months, instead of everyday recharging, which is very, very helpful to wear this stimulator, to use this stimulator. All of this makes our technology attractive for acquisition, which is our goal, but also our technology is fueled, the momentum for our technology is fueled by increasing prevalence of chronic diseases, aging population, which both contributing to persistent pain. This issue resulted in significant economic losses, estimated at 635 billion in the US, calculated in 2010, 14 years ago. So you can just imagine how this figure can look like now. Moreover, all market research agencies estimate that this market will achieve valuation of 145 billion in 2030, with CAGR of 7.1%. But even if we will go for just only for this smaller market, which is spinal cord stimulation, this is worth to do. But we are sure that we will go for global neurostimulation market, as our solution can be used for Parkinson's, can be used for rehabilitation, post-stroke rehabilitation, and we will make a significant shift in the chronic pain treatment therapies toward spinal cord stimulation. These numbers perfectly shows our business plan. So these are all M&A activities last month. What means that our strategy to be acquired is the best way to be on the market. We are not going to develop our entire system, stimulation system, because we know that electronics are perfectly developed now. We are not going to build our distribution or support or sales because the market which is now is well established. So what we are doing is we are focusing on very highly technologically prepared lead electrodes and focus only on the intrathecal field to sell this technology to one of the key market players, Medtronic, Boston Scientific, Saluda, or other players. Okay. I'm not alone in this project. I am proud CEO, but no, everything is because of this guy, Carles Garcia Victoria. He is the anesthesiologist and pain doctor here in Valencia. He developed this concept. He knows ins and outs of spinal cord stimulations, so we are following his invention. There is a bunch of market pros who have experience in development, in commercialization of neurotech products. So with our expertise, Carles' idea and the patent in hand, we are set to revolutionize chronic pain market. Now we just started our round with Capital Cell. We are raising 600,000 to fabricate and test our lead. We would like to make a feasibility test for implantation, stimulation, and recording. To apply for to submit 3 next patents and 2 trademarks, and be ready for regulatory and certification procedure. Here are the links to the campaign. We are also available next Wednesday for your questions at the webinar, which will be held on Zoom. Yeah, so thank you for your attention. Let's make a difference and bring this solution to the patients as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pavel. And thanks, everyone. Thanks, CaixaBank, for letting us the space. Thanks for letting us run a couple of minutes late. And hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.